I suppose you imagine big establishments might not take the time to think of organising something like this, and people are becoming more aware that everybody needs looking after and everybody needs time when they focus on their mental well-being. It's really important because everything else will fall apart if you don't feel healthy in the mind.
So if you look at health outcomes, which you can measure using quality of life and length of life, clinical care, i.e. access to doctors, hospitals, nurses, etc., only account for 20% of health outcomes. The other 80% are determined by these social determinants. So that's things like housing, transport, access to clean air, clean water, education, jobs. The NHS England has invested around £500 million over the next 5 years to try to see if we can more effectively and efficiently address social determinants through the healthcare system.
The concept of social prescribing is not new, and increasingly we're starting to recognise what it is and the benefits of just being outdoors. Prior to this year, we'd not done any of these walks. Now we know that people come here informally, and we know that people gather to come and walk around the park, whether it be friends or family, and we've seen that only become stronger during the COVID pandemic. So these are the first ones that we're doing, which is why we're so excited about how successful they've been.
The reason why we're in Blenheim is some preliminary research from a variety of different groups across the world has identified physical activity, number one, as being a great intervention for all sorts of conditions, both physical and mental. The second is some very emerging research on the benefits of connection and exposure to nature.
If you come on one of these walks, you can see some amazing habitats for overwintering birds on the lakes. You can go and see some of Europe's most important ancient oak trees through our high park. You can see the grandeur of the palace and just understand really its place in history and why we are here in the form that we are today. So there's plenty for people to see and to tailor for their own particular needs.
Most people will experience some sort of mental health problem in their life. Normally we'd track more around somebody getting into employment, education, training, maybe getting a new qualification, preventing homelessness. Not one journey's the same. If you look at people that are maybe gone through a very difficult time in their life, how can you support people to give them a greater chance of sustaining their recovery? People came along, they built relationships, but they took a lot away from it as well. I think it ignited quite a lot of different things for different people.
We decided on 6 different routes over a 6-week period where participants would come via minibus, they would go on the walks, and then there would be a very casual tea and coffee. It was meant to just give them an opportunity to get out of their day-to-day grind, come experience nature, meet with other people.
What we had to do was be really careful with how we designed these walks to make sure that every single step, participants were comfortable when they were arriving, knew who they were meeting, avoided large gatherings, and were there to just relax at their own pace and do things in their own time.
I feel quite calm when I go home from here. I've had a nice interaction and I've had some fresh air and seen a very beautiful place.
Just by walking, getting the blood flowing, getting some fresh air into their lungs, it does make you feel better than staring at the same 4 walls day in, day out.
And watching other people immerse themselves in that as well is actually makes you feel good as well, to see other people enjoying themselves.
Internet of Things, IoT, enabled us to measure a core outcome, which was the number of steps that these individuals walked during the walks themselves, but more importantly, in between the walks. Because what we wanted to see was, could this sort of social prescription inspire them to become more physically active?
People that were probably quite inactive before, got to get the 10,000 steps in the day.
We worked with the university to particularly look at what physical aspects there were around the place, so whether that be sounds of nature, whether that be clean air, whether that be open space, and we mapped the routes around those.
We worked with open acoustic devices. They've created a technology called the audio moth that allows you to capture the full soundscape information. The information collected by the audio moth can then be used and processed to create something called the NDSI, the Normalized Difference Soundscape Index. It gives you an idea of how natural or unnatural a space actually is. So a natural space would have a lot of bird songs and very little human sound. So for example, trucks driving, cars, etc. What that could then tell us generally is, do we have a threshold, a minimum amount of NDSI that we need in order for people to benefit?
I think what's been good about this has been the structure of coming every week. For me, there's comfort in the routine, so I've looked forward to my Thursdays of coming on this Wellbeing Walk, especially the coffee and cake afterwards. The people at Blenheim have really welcomed us with open arms. They've made these group walks feel quite special.
It took a couple of times coming here, and I realised that, you know, that walking around for like a couple of hours made me feel good, and you know, it got me off the sofa, which is always a good thing. So yeah, it made me realise that I need to get more active and get out into nature more. So I've made many new friends through this, many. Been in lockdown for over a year. It's not good for your mental health either, and you just get caught in a rut. Oh, I can't be bothered to go for a walk today. I'll just sit and play the PlayStation. And then when the Wellbeing Walk came along, it was like a boot at the backside to get me back out and again.
I've made some really nice new friends, as well as being immersed in such a beautiful, historic place. That's kind of what it's been like. It's just been amazing.
The step counts for those individuals that went through the intervention after the intervention did increase, which is great, so they're more physically active. Their well-being also improved. They're less anxious, they felt more hopeful for the future, etc., etc.
If you see somebody and you know they're more confident, you can see that, but if there's no any sort of evidence or data to sort of back that up as well, that can lack, and I think as we expand and do more and more and more and more, then we can use data to sort of inform if we're on the right track with it. So that's something that we've definitely took on within Aspire, and we're keen to do more as well.
So we're looking at how we can create an economic model which can deliver these sorts of walks linked to the NHS, that then means it's available for far more people within the area.
How can we ensure that all GPs know about the opportunities in their area to actually deliver social prescriptions for their beneficiaries? So we reduce our reliance on unnecessary medical treatments. So for somebody who's lost their job, rather than giving them an antidepressant because they're depressed that they've lost their job, can we refer them to a job placement agency, for example, instead of medicalizing conditions that do not have a medical root cause?
I think just being in nature has this extra level of peace. Listening to the sensory side of nature and being in it that way, I think can have a very uplifting feeling for people.
It does, it makes you feel so much better. Feel better in here, up here, and you sleep better at night because you've been out in the fresh air and you've been active. Get out and about, find a group of people that you enjoy spending time with and just get out in nature and walk. I mean, walking's free, it doesn't cost anything at all, nothing at all.
That, for me, that knowledge that those individuals hopefully have now, where they can manage their health, that's the most important outcome